Puddle Lane. Look out, it's magic. Look out, it's magic. Tim and Tessa Catchermouse lived in a hole in the steps of a very old house. They lived with their mother. Her name was Pegs. Most of the old house was empty, but a magician lived on the top floor. Tim and Tessa. One day, Tim and Tessa went to see the magician. They climbed up a tree that grew near to the house, and then they jumped onto the roof. They looked down through a window in the roof. The magician was sitting in his chair, reading a book. Tim and Tessa went to see the magician. The magician looked up and saw Tim and Tessa. "Come down," he said. "I've been waiting for you. I've something to show you." There was a pole leaning up against the window. Tim and Tessa climbed down the pole and ran to the magician. Tessa and Tim ran to the magician. "Now then," said the magician, "listen to me. Some of the things in this room are part of my magic. If you come to see me, there are some things you can touch and some things which you mustn't touch." "I know that," said Tim. "So do I," said Tessa. Tessa and Tim and the magician. There were some cards on the table. The magician picked one up. "I'm going to write 'No' on this card," he said. "If you see this card propped up against anything, it means that you mustn't touch it. It means, 'Look out, it's magic.'" He pointed to the word he had written. "That word is 'no,'" he said. "We'll try and remember," said Tim. "No. No." "Look," said the magician. The magician picked up another card. He wrote "yes" on it. "Look," said the magician. "That word is 'yes.' If you see that word on something, it means that it is for you." "We'll remember that," said Tessa. "Yes. Yes." "Look," said the magician. "Now, watch very carefully," said the magician. He picked up two cards. One was red and one was yellow. The magician wrote "yes" on one card, and he wrote "no" on the other. He put the cards on the table. Tim jumped onto the table to look at them. Tim jumped onto the table. "No. Yes." "Put your paw on the card that says 'yes,'" said the magician. "Red or yellow?" Tim put his paw on the red card. "No. Yes. No. Yes." Tim put his paw on the red card. There was a flash of red light. The cards vanished, and all the bells in the house started ringing. Tim jumped off the table in one big jump and hid under the magician's coat. Tim jumped off the table. "It's all right, Tim," said the magician. "Don't be frightened." He snapped his fingers. The bells stopped ringing. Tim poked out his head. "You put your paw on the no card," said the magician. "Remember, no means look out, it's magic." "I'll try to remember," said Tim. Tim and the magician. Now you try, Tessa, said the magician. Don't be frightened. I won't let anything hurt you. He took two more cards. One was white and one was yellow. He wrote yes on one card and no on the other. He put the cards on the table. No. The magician put the cards on the table. Tessa jumped onto the table. She looked at the cards for a long time. Then she put her paw on the yellow card. No. Yes. No. Yes. Tessa put her paw on the yellow card. There was a flash of light and a big bang. The cards disappeared. Tessa jumped onto the magician's shoulder and hid. Tessa jumped. It's all right, Tessa, said the magician. Don't be frightened. You touched the card that says no. You remember that means look out, it's magic. We'll try once again. He put Tim and Tessa on the table. Then he went to a cupboard and took out two bowls. The magician put Tim and Tessa on the table. He set the bowls on the table. Now, watch very carefully, he said. The magician took two cards. One card was red and one card was green. He wrote a word on each card and propped one card up against each bowl. Tim and Tessa watched him. Which card is yes? Asked the magician. No. Yes. One card was red. One card was green. Tim and Tessa looked at the cards for a long time. At last, Tim said, I think the green one is yes. So do I, said Tessa. She put a paw on the green card. No. Yes. Tessa put her paw on the green card. You're right this time, said the magician. He snapped his fingers and all the bells in the house played a tune. Look inside the bowl, he said. The two little cats looked in. The bowl was full of milk. That's for you, said the magician. The card was yes. Tim and Tessa drank the milk. It tasted very good. Yes. Tim and Tessa looked. When Tim and Tessa went home, they told Pegs all about the magician's cards. I wish I could make cards like that, said Pegs. Can you remember the words? I think so, said Tessa. I think so, said Tim. You don't sound very sure, said Pegs. We'll try very hard to remember, said Tim. Tessa and Tim and Pegs. Yes. No. No. Yes. Yes. No. No. When Tim and Tessa next went to see the magician, they took some of his cards home. Pegs found them very useful. On the next pages, you will see how she used some of them. No, no. Yes, yes. No, no.